Welcome to CMXP2 InterSect Asia, where bold ideas meet insightful dialogue. Designed for business leaders and board members, the series focuses on today's pertinent topics across several high-regulated sectors in Asia. I'm your host, Hazelyn DeGracia. CMXP2 is a strategy advisory firm with deep sector expertise in marketing and compliance, engagement and advocacy, and sustainability branding. We serve businesses in the high-regulated sectors that include food and nutrition, agriculture and agri-food, life sciences, and global banking and markets. In today's topic, we're going to take a deep dive into the food and nutrition landscape in Southeast Asia. The food and beverage industry is evolving at an unprecedented pace, driven by shifting consumer preferences and the growing demand for healthier, functional, and sustainable products. In this episode, we'll discuss key trends reshaping the industry and share key strategies for businesses to stay aligned with this growing trend. Joining me here is Yashna Harjani, Senior Partner at CMXP2, who co-leads the firm's counsel across the food, nutraceutical, and supplement sectors. Welcome to the show, Yashna.
Thank you, Hazelyn. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, let's start with the basics. Can you help us understand what's really happening in the food and beverage space in Southeast Asia?
Okay, the food and beverage industry in Southeast Asia is growing. It's really growing phenomenally. Not a double-digit growth. It's 6.99% annually, but nevertheless, it's big growth. In 2023, the industry was valued at $667 billion. And in 2028, it's expected to reach $900 billion. This growth will come primarily from what I call the VIP markets, Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Philippines, followed by the mid-growth markets, Malaysia and Thailand.
I see. And what do you think is driving this growth?
This growth is due primarily to the fact that consumers today are looking for food and beverages to support healthy lifestyles. The health and wellness market in Southeast Asia is projected to increase at an annual rate of 9.23% between 2024 and 2032. In addition, I also want to highlight that very recently, when consumers were asked if they were willing to pay more for healthier products, 10% to 17% of them said that they would pay more for healthier products. And this growth is occurring due to an increase in disposable incomes, great awareness about lifestyle diseases, and wide availability of weight loss medications, fitness and diet apps, as well as social media content that is publicizing the importance of leading a healthy lifestyle.
That makes sense. In fact, we're seeing an increasing number of functional food and beverage products on the market. Can you share a little bit more about this trend?
See, consumers today definitely want more than nourishing fuel from food.
Yes.
They're looking for food and beverages that offer functional benefits. And the functional food market in the Asia-Pacific region was valued at $127.46 billion in 2023. And it is projected to increase at an annual rate of 7.66% through to 2028. Now, this growth is occurring due to the fact that there is an increase in single-person households, dual-income busy families, and an aging population who are seeking food that can enhance overall mood and improve sleep quality, gut health, bone, joint, muscle health, and more. In addition, consumers are also looking for food and beverages that can help them age well. They want to look and feel good, and they want to stay mentally and physically active, agile, and productive through the golden years. Also, women too, with more disposable incomes today, are looking for food that can support them through menopause and that can help them maintain their hormonal balance.
Yes, I've noticed that. And adding to what you just said, we know that plant-based food and beverages are generating a lot of buzz. Can you share some insights on this trend?
Okay, consumers today are looking for plant-based food and beverages due to concerns about climate change and food security. The plant-based food and beverage market in Southeast Asia is expected to hit $1.7 billion this year. But yes, there is a but here. There are concerns that this number may not be reached as a lot of flexitarians have switched back to consuming animal products as they believe that they are healthier, more nourishing, high-protein options. But again, having said that, the wide variety of plant-based food and beverages on supermarket shelves today does suggest that there is a demand for these products. So perhaps the industry needs to change the way in which they are approaching these food. They could develop products with healthier, more natural ingredients like beans, peas, lentils, whole grains, mushrooms, or even fermented protein options with clean labels, or they could explore cell-based meats.
Right. Now, let's talk about the real-world impact. How do you think these trends will affect the food and beverage industry?
See, in keeping with these trends, the first thing that the industry really needs to do is to start with a healthier product base. That is a product base that is not only nourishing, but it must provide limited levels of negative nutrients, that is fat, sugar, or sodium. Now, the rationale for this is that consumers are likely to consume healthier food frequently, and in fact, maybe even every day. So you don't want to overexpose consumers to negative nutrients and adversely impact their health. And ideally, the nutrient composition of these products should be in sync with the nutrient criteria for healthier choice symbols or healthier classification in the target market.
Okay, and once you have a healthier product base, what's next?
Okay, once you have a healthier base, the next thing a food manufacturer needs to do is to add a food, a nutrient, or an ingredient that delivers the benefit consumers really need. This is really important in today's e-commerce world, as consumers are expected to discuss the benefit that they experience or feel through product reviews. And positive product reviews are important not only to build consumer trust, but also to retain current consumers and attract new customers.
Okay, honestly, as a consumer myself, I sometimes question the claims that I see on food packaging and on social media. How do I assess the credibility of all these information?
Product claims are important to communicate product benefits to consumers. Okay, so there's a logical reason for why those claims are there on pack. Now, if a claim is approved by regulatory authorities, it is displayed on pack. But if it is not officially approved, food manufacturers now use social media channels or e-commerce platforms to talk about product benefit. And to ensure product credibility, they also ensure that every benefit is backed by scientific references.
Well, that's useful. I'll be sure to keep a lookout for these scientific references the next time I shop online. Now, moving on. What about processed food? Because there's been so much stigma around it right now, with many people believing it's unhealthy.
See, as a nutritionist, I firmly believe that in an ideal world, fresh food is best. But in the real fast-paced world, convenience is of essence. So for optimal nutrition, one could balance fresh food with processed food. Here, I also want to point out that not all processed food are equal. Some processed food offer more nutritional benefits. For example, frozen fruit and vegetables offer more nutrients than fresh produce that has been lying in the refrigerator for a while. And some processed food also offer more health benefits. For example, fermented food like vinegar and tempeh offer gut health benefits. Okay, but again, going back to your question about the stigma, yes, it's real. Consumers are wary of processed food today. And one of the things that food manufacturers could do is to explain the manufacturing process that is required to deliver the product. Here, they also need to emphasize the care that is taken in order to maintain the safety and the quality of the product through shelf life. And I'm sure that with this transparency and with the right kind of information, consumers may become a little less wary about processed food.
Okay. And what's your take on clean labels?
Okay, let me first explain what clean labels are. Clean labels are essentially labels with fewer and familiar ingredients and no additives or preservatives. And consumers believe that because these products only contain natural ingredients, they're healthier products. But in the real world, when a food is manufactured, ingredients are needed to keep products safe, to maintain the quality of the product. So, what food manufacturers can do is they should actually list all the ingredients in their products along with the functionality of the ingredients. And they can, this information can be listed on a website or on other social media channels. And in addition, they should also emphasize that every ingredient that is used in the product, and at the level at which it is used, is guided by global food safety authorities. So, and I'm sure with this information, consumers may be a little less apprehensive about some of the ingredients that they see in products.
Yes, that is very important. Speaking of challenges, what do you think are the key issues that the industry is facing today?
See, the industry is experiencing many challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, but from a healthier product standpoint, cost and taste are key challenges. From a cost perspective, things have been very difficult for the industry as the cost of raw materials, ingredients, and logistics has gone up significantly in recent years. On top of that, the cost of living index has also increased. For example, between 2022 and 2023, the cost of living index in Indonesia went up by 10 points, and in Vietnam, it went up by 7 points. As a result of this, consumers today are a little more selective about their purchases, and they're only willing to pay more for more value and more benefits. And together, I think these issues have made it very difficult for the industry to price products competitive. Moving on to taste, as you create a healthier product, you have to reduce fat, sugar, and sodium. And with the reduction of these nutrients, the product, even with taste optimization, never really tastes as good as its traditional counterpart. And consumers are not willing to compromise on taste. And to complicate matters further, the additional ingredients which are needed to optimize the taste of a healthier food or beverage also contribute cost to the product, and they add to the ingredient list, which kind of runs counter to the consumer demand for clean label products.
So cost and taste are key concerns for organizations. What about the e-commerce space? Because like most people, I buy products from countries beyond Singapore.
See, in the e-commerce world, products are expected to cross borders with ease. In Southeast Asia, the regulations are not harmonized. So if a product is manufactured for one country, it is not regulatory approved in another country, and it has to be reformulated. And reformulation is an expensive exercise.
Now, let's take a closer look at these challenges. So how can the industry effectively respond to them?
When it comes to cost, the first thing that the industry needs to do is to accept the fact that a healthier, efficacious food or beverage is never going to cost the same like its traditional counterpart. It is going to cost more as each value-added component, whether it is a food, a nutrient, a functional ingredient, or an ingredient needed to optimize taste, does add cost to the product. And once they have established that high cost, the next thing the industry needs to do is to price up. And from a price up perspective, they need to price up for profitability to sustain the business in the market over the long term. And for this, the product should be positioned at the high end of affordability for middle-class consumers, as a sizable consumer base exists in Southeast Asia. In Indonesia, for example, 17% of the population and close to 48 million people belong to this consumer base. And in Vietnam, 13% of the population or 13 million people belong to this consumer base. And as the sales grow and economies of scale kick in, the price can then be adjusted and the consumer base can be expanded.
What about taste then?
Okay, here again, the food brands need to recognize that healthier products with lower levels of fat, sugar, and sodium will never taste exactly like their traditional counterparts, even with optimization. And in view of this, when they taste test the product with consumers, they should emphasize nutrient changes in the product and should also highlight the health benefits of the product. With this information, the consumer can then make an informed choice about making a taste trade-off versus the health benefits that the product provides.
All right, that makes sense. Now, moving on to regulatory challenges, what advice would you offer to brands?
See, when it comes to diverse regulations, many food brands have become very proactive. They have started identifying potential target markets early in the game, at the ideation phase of the project. I think this is a great approach because with this, regulatory criteria that guide nutrient and ingredient levels in all target markets are then incorporated into the product design, and the final product is then compliant in all target markets.
Now, the food and beverage industry has a notable track record of innovation failures. Why do you think that is?
See, innovation failure is a concern for many organizations, as a high percentage of new products are withdrawn within 1 to 2 years post-launch.
Yeah.
To limit innovation failure, some organizations over the last decade have started implementing stage gate protocols through the innovation process. This requires adherence to stringent checklist at each gate. And with the complete implementation of the stage gate process, innovation failures have come down to an extent. But more recently, the industry has also started integrating AI-powered tools into the innovation process, as these tools can be used to predict errors, refine changes in product design, marketing strategies, and more. And it is believed that with the complete, integration of AI through the innovation process, the rate of innovation failures can actually come down significantly.
AI appears to be gaining traction in the food and beverage sector. So could you elaborate more on its role and impact?
AI-powered tools can support the innovation process in multiple ways. For example, AI-powered tools are being used to identify what consumers need and optimize product design, marketing strategies, claims, and communications. More recently, AI tools have also been used to define precise consumer segments for personalized nutrition solutions.
I've also noticed that the adoption of AI in Southeast Asia has been slower compared to other regions in the world. What do you think is holding the region back?
You are right. The uptake of AI has been slow as the industry has been resisting change. In addition, AI is data-driven, and the data needed to support AI-powered tools is currently work in progress. Going forward, food brands and ingredient suppliers really need to work together to put processes in place, not only to build a robust database, but also to update the required database.
Yeah, it sounds like there are a lot of opportunities ahead. Then what priorities would you recommend for the industry and how can it succeed?
Given the evolving landscape in the health and wellness space, the industry must focus on 3 key priorities. First, the industry needs to develop truly healthier, cost-efficient, and efficacious food and beverages that deliver tangible benefits that consumers can feel or experience. Next, it is important for the industry to price up. A price up is important for profitability and business sustainability over the long term. And for this, the industry needs to position the product at the higher end of affordability for middle-class consumers, as a sizable consumer base exists in Southeast Asia. And finally, the industry needs to embrace technology and fully integrate AI. And for this, All industry players need to collaborate and work together to put processes in place, not only to develop a robust database, but also to continuously update the database.
Well said. I mean, after all, AI isn't just about improving consumer experiences, it's also about fortifying businesses. That was Yashna Harjani on the evolving food and beverage landscape in Southeast Asia. Which brings us to the end of this episode. A big thank you once again to Yashna for sharing her expertise and invaluable insights with us, and all our viewers for taking the time to watch today's podcast. If you enjoyed this episode of CMXP2 Intersect, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with your network. Follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter at CMXP2 for updates and upcoming episodes. Till then, this is Hazel Negracia signing off.